Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So, I will repeat one more time the verse. So the translation is, let us directly approach Madhava and stop him from going. What can our family elders and other relatives do to us? Now that fate is separating us from Mukunda, our hearts are already wretched, for we cannot bear to give up his association even for a fraction of a second. So, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam very intimate pastimes of Krishna and the gopis in Vrindavan. This is like very special pastimes when Krishna was leaving Vrindavan. So this was like, this was very, very hard for the gopis when they found out that Krishna will be leaving and that Akrura came to steal him actually. And even though Krishna came with a mission to relieve the world from the demons that were there and also to bestow the blessings of his devotees, so the time has come for him to kill Kamsa and to kill the other demons, Jarasandha and all the others. So it was time for him to go on. But Krishna, when he comes, he doesn't fulfill, with his actions, he doesn't fulfill only one thing. He fulfills multi things that he wants to do. So we sometimes when we read, we can only see one part of his mission. There are many hidden sides. So this is why acharyas are there to help us to understand what is happening in the background. And here Shri Vishwan Chakravarti Thakur describes also the feeling of the gopis, how they felt and how they abandoned all the shyness that they had. So we cannot imagine what was how deep the culture of India and Vedic culture in that time was. So for them that somebody finds that they have a lover and that they love Krishna, even that they have husbands, was something impossible. It's something was like I will not compare it to some very ugly things that today that people maybe could be so how to say, shy about, but they were like, it was really a big thing for them. But because they knew that Krishna will leave and maybe never come back, they were ready to do whatever. So Maharaj yesterday was reading this beautiful verse, which explains the emotions of gopis, but he didn't went deeply inside of it. The verse says that hard-hearted Krishna has already mounted his chariot. The gopis are looking him how he is hard-hearted, how he is leaving them, that they gave him all his love, and that he is now abandoning them. And if we don't take guidance from acharyas, we may think that Krishna is like that. So if Krishna is like that, why should we bother to do so many austerities, to do so many, worship, to do our sadhana, to perform all of these things if Krishna is like that? Why to do that? So the point is that Krishna is not like that. And that's why all of our acharyas and millenniums and all the demigods and everybody is worshipping Krishna, because Krishna is very soft-hearted. Krishna is very soft-hearted, and he really cares about his devotees. And Krishna needed to perform this pastime. I mentioned it 2 days ago when I was speaking, that because Krishna wanted to protect Vrajabasis, he wanted to protect Vrindavan from Kamsa and from all the demons, Jarasandha and others, so that they don't hurt them. And so he wanted also to protect the Yadus and his parents, Devaki and Vasudev, who were imprisoned and tortured by Kamsa. So he went and to perform all of these things. But he actually also, if we look at this multifold dimensions, he never left Vrindavan. Only his Vasudha form left. So I mentioned about this 2 days ago. I just wanted to briefly notice it. So Krishna, when this pastime was performed, in this moment, gopis didn't know what to do. So Yashoda, Nanda, and other Vrajavasis somehow agreed or allowed Krishna to go. But gopis didn't. Gopis assembled together and they said, okay, now let us join our forces and let us try to stop Krishna. Because Mother Yashoda was trying to stop Krishna, but she was alone. And now all the gopis said, okay, let us stop Krishna. Krishna is going to leave. Krishna, our life and soul of everything that we are trying to do is going to leave. So they approached Krishna and they started to speak. We will see now in following verses, how they feel and how they almost lost their lives. So, and Krishna didn't just stood there and just went and didn't care. Krishna was so emotionally disturbed by that Akrura needed to hold him, because Krishna fainted from the love of the gopis, and especially when Radharani came and said, "Oh Shyam, please don't go, what will happen with me?" It was such an emotional situation. Krishna forgot all of his mission that he came to this world. He forgot everything, what Kamsa, what demons. I just want to, when I be with Radharani, love my dearest devotee. But still, then somehow Akrura and, how to say, with the will of the providence, or actually Krishna's arrangement, somehow Akrura took him. Even though there was gopis were beating Akrura and the horses and put him down and, so it was like a really, really disturbing situation. But on the end, Krishna left. This was his arrangement, but he stayed in the hearts of the gopis, and they were always present. He was always present with them. But I want to point out another point on today, and this is that in this hard situation that happened for the gopis and for the Brajavasis, the only thing that they could do is to join their forces to try to stop Krishna. And this is not the only time when they have done that. We are now speaking about this very exalted pastime, so I will mention another one. And this is during the Rasa Lila, when gopis were came to the forest, left their husbands, left everything to serve Krishna, not to enjoy Krishna, but to serve Krishna, because this is a pure, unalloyed love. And Krishna, in one moment when they were on the banks of Yamuna, when they were so happy that Krishna is there with them, he just disappeared. And why he disappeared, I will explain it a little later, but the point is that Krishna disappeared because when Krishna disappeared, they were totally disturbed. They didn't know what to do. They were trying to find him around, they were going around, they could not find him, they were asking trees, they were just totally disturbed. And Krishna left with Radharani, because in that moment the gopis, when they were together with him, they were thinking that they were the most fortunate girls in the universe. And they were trying a little bit to compete with each other, which didn't allow this togetherness and this cooperation between them, so that they could together cooperate and serve Krishna. So Krishna, that's why he left. Radharani didn't thought like that, so he left with her, and in a moment he also disappeared to Radharani, when Radharani asked him to carry her because she was tired and everything. But why? This is very interesting. It's mentioned, the superficial reason is because Radharani thought, oh, Krishna is mine, and also felt such thing. We cannot say that it's ego, but the point was not that. Radharani's love is totally pure, and the point was that Krishna disappeared because the gopis would be envious on Radharani because Radharani was only with him. So Krishna disappeared so that gopis could, see the love of Radharani and could also feel for her, her lust also. But why Krishna has done that? So that he could prepare the hearts of the gopis to be able to cooperate together and do the rasa dance, which is a huge cooperation that everybody needs to be simultaneously dancing and cooperating, and that this loving mood can come out. So Krishna usually makes different arrangements in our lives to help us to become more serious and to help us to purify our heart. So he's just using the example of the gopis, even though they are totally pure and they don't have, the tinge of material desires and other things. But in our case, Krishna is doing sometimes things like that. He's, putting different obstacles on our paths, on our services, in different aspects of our lives, just to help us to become more serious and to surrender more to Him. So I know that it's not easy in any circumstance, in any yatra, in any relationships, in anyone's spiritual life. Things are not going usually down until we come to a certain level, but still, even then, when we are very pure, obstacles are still there, but we don't notice them, because we are totally absorbed in Krishna consciousness, so we can easily go above them. So until we develop such deep absorption in Krishna consciousness, we are very easily being harassed, or how we say that, influenced by the obstacles that are coming on our path, if we don't properly practice and utilize our Krishna consciousness. So the point, in order for cooperation to happen, like Chandramauli Maharaj wonderfully yesterday gave a class about cooperation, and he said that it's the topmost principle to cooperate, because even though there is two opposing opinions, he mentioned yesterday that even if somebody is 95% right and somebody is 85% right, it doesn't matter which choice to choose, because we all have different opinions. This is the conditioned nature of us. We all have opinions. We all have our desires how to do things. But the topmost principle is to cooperate, even if we accept the lesser percentage of, good solution. Because together we can do much more, and we can attract much more blessings from Krishna. So in today's age of quarrel and hypocrisy, cooperation is something that is not easy to achieve, because there is all of these anarthas, egos, and obstacles, and influences. We are raised in the culture, at least me, which puts so much pressure on the individualism. Every one of us needs to follow his way. We don't respect others, and such things. So to achieve cooperation, like gopis had, to have Krishna, because on the end, I forgot to mention that part. So when when Krishna also disappeared to Radharani, then what gopis have done, they joined together and they started Sankirtan. Sankirtan on the banks of Yamuna, started to cry and call for Krishna's names. And then when they have joined together with the same mood, with the same desperation, then Krishna manifested. So that was the point when Krishna manifested. So the point is that, and this is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given to us, is Sankirtan movement. It's not just having our own bhajan. It's joining together for the pleasure of Shishi, Kishore, Kishori, Gornita, and Jagannath Bala Subhadra. And it's not easy. And in order for cooperation to happen, one important thing is individual's purity. Our own purity, because we can always see the mistakes and we can always see the faults of others, but individual purity is something very important, because I'm just speaking this in my own case, and if I'm not, maybe some others are there online also. So please forgive me, I'm not addressing anybody personally. I don't know even so much good to you, so you individually, so I cannot say anything. But in my own case, and it's on Kanishta level, the quality of Kanishta level is quarrel and fighting between devotees. So this is like the common principle. So in order to go above that, we need to put endeavor in our spiritual life and to come to the Madhyama level, to climb up on the spiritual, in our spiritual life, to come from this first Shraddha, come to Sadhu Sangha, association with the devotees, have proper association with the devotees, and then practice Bhajana Kriya, come to Anartha Nivritti, and then purify our anarthas, so that we could come to the nishta, to the steady point of spiritual life when we can properly and not so much influenced by the modes of nature, practice and cooperate with each other. Because until we are, while we are influenced by the modes of the nature, we are always going to be influenced even without our will. If we are in the mode of ignorance or mode of passion or even in the mode of goodness, we are going to be influenced with different things. So I will read you one interesting thing that I read in Shastras. And the path leading to pure devotion is graded according to the devotee's relative freedom from the modes of material nature. Dominated by ignorance, the lowest stage, devotees tend to be lazy, to oversleep, to give up easily, to break the rules, to make foolish mistakes, and so on. Dominated by passion, they are apt to over-endeavor, cultivate separate interests, be too attached to the results, fight unnecessarily with others, and change services often and whimsically. Dominated by goodness, devotees are inclined to remain secluded, be thoughtful, regulated, knowledgeable, happy to the point of self-complacency, and think themselves better than others. So even the mode of goodness is not something that can help us to cooperate. We need to move to the level of transcendence, Shuddha Sattva, because in that place, when we take shelter of Krishna, then we can cooperate because we put Krishna in the center. Otherwise, if we put ourselves in the center, we are going to always cultivate separate interests. So this is very important. And Srila Prabhupada gave us the process by which we could raise ourselves in the mode of goodness and then gradually to Shuddha Sattva. And this is chanting Mahamantra, having our japa, reading the religious scriptures such as Srimad Bhagavatam, perform rituals such as worshiping the Krishna deities forms, and practice meditation such as by remembering Krishna's pastimes. So all of these are very, something that Srila Prabhupada gave us, it is already there, and it's very powerful, very, very powerful. And the most important part so that we could purify our desires and anarthas and everything is chanting. The chanting is very, very important. If we perform it properly, then we can eradicate the unwanted habits from the first three causes: the reactions from pious acts, from sinful acts, and from mistakes committed while performing worship. So this is different categories of anarthas. So from the pious acts, sinful acts, and mistakes committed while performing worship. So we can eradicate those things. It happens automatically as one practices devotional service. But eradication of bad habits arising from the fourth cause, offenses to the holy name or devotees, etc., is not easily or automatically cleared. Once they have taken root, the result of Namaparada is difficult to weed out. And this is stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila. If one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, despite his endeavor to chant holy name for many births, he will not get the love of Godhead that is the ultimate goal of this chanting. So why I'm mentioning this? I'm mentioning this for that I can be aware of that in order to achieve something for Krishna, in order to cooperate and to achieve big things, first step is to put the most emphasis in our own purity, to raise our consciousness, to come to higher levels of spiritual life, to be able to handle also our own mistakes and others' mistakes, that we don't take them personally, that we don't process them through our ego and just, start uh, envying somebody or start, what is the English word? When you take something to heart and then you just don't let it go. When somebody tells something, because we still have this, we are still not humble as a blade of grass, tolerant as a tree, ready to offer all respect to others and not respect anything in the return, because we still didn't came to that level. So this is just preliminary part, and the second part, in order to cooperate, is it means that we need to lean to each other. Cooperation doesn't mean my way or highway. It doesn't mean, okay, it will be like I said. No, it means, okay, let's see how we can serve the whole community, how we can serve everybody and not just me or my stretched ego. Because you know how the compassion goes. First is myself, then it's my family, then it's somebody who we identify ourselves with, and then it goes like that. So unselfishness and real service means not just our own ego or these close egos, but it means stretching ourselves also to the others, stretching ourselves to be able to satisfy the needs of all the devotees and all the people. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here. He didn't came just to make a certain person Krishna conscious. He wanted to make everybody Krishna conscious. And in order to achieve that, we need to know how to bend towards each other. And also, one important principle is also that we need to, like yesterday when Maharaj spoke, I think Jai Jagannath mentioned something about the orchestra, how everybody needs to cooperate. And the most important thing that I wanted to emphasize is that in order for the orchestra to be successful, you need to have a dirigent. How do you say that in English? No, the way, but the person who is doing, how is he called? Who is the orchestra is playing and he is showing them. I forgot how that person is called. We call him in Croatian dirigent. The person who is helping everybody to cooperate together. Because what would happen if one group of saxophones would try to compete the violins or cellos or whatever? It would be a total mess. So he is helping them who will go when and how things can function. Let's say director or person who is music director. So if orchestra is accepting him as the person who will lead them, then they could cooperate together. And that person who is doing this music director, he needs to understand the needs of everybody, needs to understand how they function, he needs to understand when they can do different things, and for the benefit of them and all the others. So also it's in leadership, it's about that leader needs to understand the needs of the devotees, needs to engage them properly for the outreach of Krishna consciousness for everybody, like people who came to listen to the orchestra. So it's always, this principle of leadership is very important. And leadership means not just being a boss, it means trying to satisfy the needs of everybody who is included in that, whatever we are speaking about, project, yatra, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we need to take consideration about everybody. It's not just about my family, it's not just about myself, it's about everybody. And giving opportunity to everybody that we could become more Krishna conscious and that we could expand Krishna consciousness to others. So, yeah, working for the benefit of others, not just our ideas and personal interests. So that's why the purity is important, to purify our personal agendas there. So I wanted to emphasize this point here, how the gopis were trying to jointly cooperate to bring Krishna, and how it's also important for us to serve Krishna and to be able to serve the needs of others. Thank you very much. So it's 8:15. If there is some comments, corrections, questions, please. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I didn't want to address anybody particularly with this. It was for my own purification and something that I felt while praying that it's always necessary in today's age of quarrel and hypocrisy. Is it turned on? Yeah, okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. And one thing came to my mind. Gopis are thinking, so what will happen to us if we will be cut in the process of blocking Krishna? Suppose our relatives, our husband, and they came to know, that we have affairs with Krishna. That's point I was thinking. So, give some explanation or anything you want to throw some light. So, how to get rid of, like for example,
How to get rid of?
how to get rid of all this type of situation. Suppose you are joining Hare Krishna movement and your father and mother, they are complaining, they are coming to a temple and they are banging wall, they are making so much, obstacles, like, we have to give police complaint, all this, that.
Okay, so how to overcome?
I have to, means how to relate. Like how to, means I was thinking that way, that when gopis are trying to stop Krishna,
Yeah.
that time they are thinking what will happen to us when we will be cut by our relatives.
Yeah, so the point is that gopis are saying like that, what will happen to us, just to steer love of Krishna. But the point, their internal motivation was not, we want to enjoy Krishna. Their internal motivation was, we know that Krishna will not be happy outside of Vrindavan. That's their internal motivations, which acharyas explained to us. Their love is totally unselfish. It's just for Krishna, for Krishna's pleasure. So they're just expressing it in a way to steer Krishna's love to keep him back in Vrindavan, because they know that he can only be happy in Vrindavan. So it's totally different. But one point that came to my mind is that sometimes you were mentioning that when we come in Krishna consciousness, then everything is new, everything is like very interesting. And I remember I was walking with the Bhagavad Gita on the streets, reading it and such things. But after some time, this complacency comes. And then we feel that, familiarity, that it's, oh, whatever, like deities are there, like this is there, that is there, I don't need to serve them. It's, it's everything is already there. Shastras are all over our house. We don't need to read them, or we read them already. So this is the moment when, when our eagerness for Krishna is being diminished. And in our spiritual life, it's like we cannot stop. We cannot stay on the level quo, on status quo. We are either developing in our spiritual life, or our spiritual life is diminishing. So it's always very important that we see on where we are in our spiritual life, and in that and see how can we move forward. Because it's not always the same formula. It depends where we are. Are we on Shraddha level, are we on Sadhusanga level, Bhajana, Kriya, Nartan, Vritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, or whatever. It's different medicines that are necessary to help us to advance further. So it's always important to always see where we are and which medicine exactly do we need in order to be able to advance to, and there will be some obstacles like you mentioned which Krishna will put, and these obstacles are like medicines that help us to face where we are and what is our next step forward. Yeah. If I properly understood your question, if there is something that I didn't answer, please you can also make it clearer. Is okay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Prabhu. You came from all the way from Croatia, Prabhu, but we cannot serve you. I cannot serve you properly. Sorry for any inconvenience. Hare Krishna. My question was like cooperative. The thing is association, right? Association is key point. By our own endeavor, we cannot do that. Another thing is that management has to take care. Like they have to have a vision, right? How everything's need, and according he has to act. Everything should go on properly, right? That's a nice points. And you read some of your comments from the book from a phone. Can you tell me which was from where you read that?
This is specifically from Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. Oh. This is an amazing book from Shivaram Swami where he compiled the commentaries from Nectar of Devotion, from different acharyas. He combined it all, and it's like it's a really amazing guidebook in spiritual life about all the different stages, all the different practices that we need to perform in order to advance, and he's combining all the acharyas, Vishwanathacharya Thakur, and all the others, like who are speaking on this Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and it's really nicely put together, systematically how we can advance. It's an amazing book. I didn't saw that you have it in the temple, library, or upstairs, but it's a really amazing book.
Yeah, but we see in the pastimes of the gopis or the Pandavas, Kunti Maharani, or they go through many obstacles on the path. This way, but they were very fixed in Krishna consciousness. But as we see years pass, our body also is not so active, we are not so energetic like that. But there are many obstacles on the path of devotional service to progress. So, how do you like to suggest on this?
To overcome them?
Yeah.
So the point is
that like a war on, Prabhupada's war on Maya, we are very weak.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. I'm always meditating on that in my spiritual life, is that after time, like we become familiar and sometimes complacent in our spiritual life, and don't practice it so intensely, don't take so much shelter of Krishna anymore, and then our spiritual life starts diminishing, and then the obstacles and all the things can affect us much more. And then we can just surrender to it, like we can say, okay, now we have a corona, we are, like we cannot associate with the devotees, it's hard to do service, it's hard to do that. We can have so many excuses. Our mind gives us so many excuses. But on the same time, if we are serious and if we are practicing our spiritual life like seriously, like it's prescribed, seriously to chant our rounds, associate with the devotees, serve Krishna, trying to preach, then we will maintain that enthusiasm, and then it will be easy for us to cross such obstacles, and each obstacles will help us to surrender more and take more shelter of Krishna, which will help us to cross our boundaries, cross our weaknesses, to purify our anarthas and to purify all the things that we have in our heart. That's why Krishna is putting those things. It says that when person takes initiation, that all of his karma is wiped away. But why then are those things happening in our life? Only because we need to experience certain things to purify our heart, to purify these concepts, consciousness, and things that are still left there. It's not because of our karma, but to be able to progress in our spiritual life. So if we are serious, and this is most important, is what I read there, is chanting intensely our rounds, seriously, to read Srila Prabhupada's books, and to serve devotees, Krishna, and trying to preach. This is the most important parts. And in many cases in my spiritual life, because I had a lot of responsibilities in Croatia with different services that I do, it was very hard to find time for reading. And if you don't have time for reading, then motivation and inspiration comes down, and all these problems and all the obstacles are there in front, and it's hard then to also maintain the very high level of your sadhana, of chanting, because you are thinking about different things that are happening, different issues, different things between devotees, and how you can serve them better, and this and that. So it's not easy if we don't put an emphasis on our sadhana, chanting, reading, organize our life around that, and to balance it. Like it says in the Nectar of Instructions, that we should not over endeavor. We should not for material things. Also, Krishna consciousness. We can over endeavor if we don't neglect our chanting, sadhana, and all this other thing. So it's important to balance, like Maharaj yesterday nicely was speaking about that, to balance our life. Because if we don't balance, then the modes are going to just roll us down, like the mode of passion, and then the mode of ignorance comes and everything else. So, but we can see that devotees who are very serious in their sadhana, in their Krishna consciousness, they remain the enthusiasm. The enthusiasm doesn't diminish. They become more and more enthusiastic. And this is the proof that the process functions if the medicine is taken properly. And in my spiritual life, I can see the different oscillations, and I can see that when immediately when I started to take the medicine properly, things changed. So the important part is to understand and to see what part of prescription of the medicine we are not taking properly if we have different, like if we are being disturbed with different things which are happening and being demotivated in spiritual life. What is the ingredient that we are putting it wrong? Because it's not just taking holy name. It's how we behave with the devotees, how much we read, how properly do we do service, do we do offenses, different things we need to take in consideration. And Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani actually illuminated this process for me. I'm reading it over and over again. It's really amazing. Chandramal Maharaj also recommended me that book. It's like really, really amazing. And if you can, by reading and studying, you can notice that. But like Maharaj yesterday, and we spoke last days, it's also important to have some guidance. Doesn't matter how mature we are, but to have somebody, at least friend, who can help us and point out, like where we stuck. Because many cases we cannot see ourselves objectively. We are always looking at ourselves subjectively. So it's good to have somebody who knows us and who can point out, like if we are stuck somewhere. Because actually, if we don't do that, we are just going to suffer. We are not going to experience the bliss of Krishna consciousness. We are not going to progress. We are just going to struggle. And what's the use of struggle? We are just wasting our time, wasting our energy. We are not happy. Krishna is not happy. And it's better to invest properly, to try to see where we are stuck, because each one of us is on different level. So each one of us needs some particular, guidance and how we can progress. And I'm saying that it's not also on a very pure level of devotion. We can see in, like sannyasis, or they have different obstacles. But because their enthusiasm and their motivation, and they are so strong in Krishna consciousness, they can easily overcome them. It's not a problem, it's not an issue for them. But if we are weak, and we come in the war, and we try to, fight with Maya, and we are exhausted, we don't have proper weapons, we are not equipped, we are not trained, what can happen? Maya will just, kick us. And we are saying Maya, but this is material energy. We are overwhelmed with the medias, with all the inputs, with all the energy that is around us, influences of families, work, and everything. Even if we are under the, in the temple, we are influenced also with many relationships, with many issues in congregation, with many issues in the temple, with many difficulties. So that's why we need to be very, very serious, and then really to see how can we progress properly. That's why I put that emphasis first, our own purity, in order to be able to cooperate, because cooperation in Kali Yuga is not easy, even though it's, if we do it, Krishna bestows all his mercy. So individual purity is important there. Because if we don't start from ourselves, we will always point the mistake of others. And this is the easiest way. But in any issue, in any problem, there is two sides. There is two sides. So if we come and we change our mindset, we say, okay, I'm really sorry, I understood, that I didn't behave properly, then the heart of the other person will also change. So it's always that purity. I will just mention one thing for the end. I was driving Bhakticharu Maharaj, and he was telling me Lila when they were having some issues with Ritviks, and Ritvik was very harshly criticizing him, Radhanath Maharaj, and some other GBCs, and they were like not so happy with how he was criticizing. He was really angry, and he had some valid resources, valid reasons, and some of them are overestimated and such things. And you know what Radhanath Maharaj has done? He just fell down on the feet of him and said, "I'm really sorry. Please forgive us." And it totally changed that person. Even if that person was blasphemous, even if that person didn't have, proper reasons to criticize and different, he was not, I'm just finding proper words, I'm sorry. So, even though all of these things were not proper, Radha Maharaj has done that. And it changed the heart of the other person. So in the relationship, if one person's purity is raised, and he can transform also the others. So that's very important. Even if though there are some issues in the relationships, if we change ourselves, we can change the relationship also. But it's not superficially. It's something that needs to come by cultivating spiritual life properly. Prabhu, would you like to share something? Okay. Is there something else, or? Okay. It's 8:30. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.